right, so today we are going to smoke a pork butt. It's about a 6 or 7 pounder. And what I did was I took the pork butt out and I covered it with olive oil. And then I basically just rubbed it with this stuff from Williams-Sonoma. It's really good. So I'm going to put that on the smoker at about 225 to 250, and it's going to go for about 8 hours. All right, so I've got a little headlamp on here because it's still dark this morning. But what I've done is I've got a little container that's just got nothing but water in it, and what will happen is that'll kind of evaporate and keep it moist in there to help the meat not dry out. And there's our pork butt all ready to go. So we just kind of put it in. I put it in fat side down. So that's what the whole thing looks like here as we get started. All right, so we have to do a spritz. And basically what this does is just helps keep the pork butt moist. And so, or adds moisture to it, I should say, during the cooking process. So after about an hour, hour and a half, I go in and I coat the whole thing with this spritz, about every hour for the last 7 hours or so. Normally I just use 50% apple cider vinegar and 50% apple juice, but I don't have any apple juice and I don't feel like going to the store to get some, so I'm gonna make my own. So I'm just gonna use what little apple cider vinegar I have. And then I like this stuff just to drink it. It's like a diet fruit juice. It tastes really good, so I'm gonna put some of that in there. And then I'm gonna go with some cranberry juice too. Not too sweet. Like a third each, something like that. And just kind of stir it up there. And pour that in my spritzer bottle. Now I'm gonna go with a little more of this stuff because I really like it. I'll put a little more of that in there. Oops. I'll just drink that myself. And that's going to be the spritz that we're going to be coating on there, in addition to the little water that's in the smoker itself. Okay, so we are about 3 hours in, and that is what it looks like. So I did put the pork shoulder into a tin, and it's catching all that fat that's rendering off. I just thought that might be a good idea. We're at 3 hours now, so about every half hour I'm going to go ahead and spritz it with my spritzer that I made. There we go. Looking pretty good so far. Well, we got some snow out here this morning. That's Lewis, my sous chef, and that's Lulu. So what happened is I came out here for a spritzer and I noticed that the water was almost gone, so I just took that in and filled it up, but it's starting to look pretty good. The fat is all rendering down on the bottom. I'm just going to end up throwing that out, but it's coming along pretty good. Close it up and let it go. Alright, so I was supposed to take it off when the internal temperature got to 165 or so I got a little hot, but basically at this point, we're pulling it out of this metal tray, and we're gonna wrap the whole thing in aluminum foil, but not before I give it a good spritz. And then we stick it back in the smoker for another couple hours. Okay, we are back in now. It's covered. I've still got my water in there, although I don't know that I really need it. But so now the whole thing is covered in tin foil. I did pour out and discard that rendered fat down in there. So now we're going to cook here for another couple hours until the internal temp gets to about 205. And you can see that Lulu and Lewis picked up some of the little drippings that fell down there, so we're enjoying it. Alright, so what I've got is I've got two different thermometers in there. One's hitting 195 and the other is hitting 200. 203 is my target, so what I think I'm going to do is flip them around so it's getting cooked. The side of it that's up to 200 is going to be on the cooler side to even it out. Alright, so we are at 206 on the one and 202 on the other. 203 is our target temp. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out. Now, this is really the most important part. So there's a cooler, and what you got to do is you have to take the pork shoulder out, and you stick it in the cooler, and you actually let it sit in there for about an hour. What happens is that while it's cooking, it gets super hot, and all the fibers and muscle and everything expand, and as it cools down slowly, it sucks back in some of the rendered fat that's in the meat. So this hour of sort of letting it rest is a big deal for the pulled pork. So we're going to do that, and then we'll be ready to shred it up. All right, so we are all done. We have taken it out of the cooler. It rested in there for an hour. So we are ready to shred it. And if it's done right, you should be able to just pull it apart with your hands. You shouldn't really need to do too much more. I've got these gloves that let you just kind of get in there and it doesn't burn. So there's the bone. You can just see how tender it all is. And you just kind of get in here and let it see. There's all that striations and things in there, and you're going to want to pull out all this fat, this extra fat that you have when you're doing it. But this gets it all pulled apart. It gets it all mixed up with this outside Korean barbecue mix. So it's all going to get sort of shredded up and mixed in there together. And it's all right, and we have the finished product. That's the pulled pork with a little barbecue sauce in it. And I stuck it on a plate. I made some coleslaw. And there's the pulled pork, and I put a little coleslaw on the top. Just looks kind of nice. So there you go, pulled pork.